it earlier, some SEC scheduling winners and losers here for me.
Yeah.
Now for winner, I had to go with this. I know that a lot of people wanted to play the 9-game conference schedule in the SEC. Well, how about this statistic, Gabe? Now, it's Peter Burns. I did not fact check this myself, but this is from Peter Burns from
Peter
ESPN.
Burns would never lie. He especially, and I like Peter a lot. We've done some radio together. He's the man. He's great, and he's great at what he does. He would never skew something to make it SEC positive. Like never, he would never do that.
Well, this is not SEC positive, but it is something that's interesting. So, did you know that since the NCAA approved 9-game conference schedules in 2006, there has never been a team playing a 9-game conference schedule win a national championship? The Big Ten, Pac-12, and Big 12 haven't won a title since moving to 9 conference games. Meanwhile, the SEC has won 13 titles and the ACC has won 3. No team since 2006, whenever the 9-game conference schedule was approved, has won a national championship playing a 9-game conference schedule.
How about that?
Yeah, that's now. There's been opportunities, right? was the 9th conference game the reason why some of these teams didn't win a championship? I don't think so. But you got some pretty strong correlation going on, at least.
I do think, first of all, that is very interesting and quite the statistic. Thank you, Peter Burns. We love you. But yeah, the announcement that the SEC is going to eliminate divisions, that teams will play 8 conference games. We know you in Texas joined the conference for that 1 year. It sounds like maybe 2 years at the most. Now they're still going to be required to play a Power 5 non-conference game that season. But it feels like a really good thing for Oklahoma, doesn't it?
It will make the transition a little bit easier. Now, here's the thing, though. I can just as easily give you a way more painful SEC 8-game schedule than I can a 9-game schedule.
Right.
It just depends on how it falls. Now, most likely, all things being equal, you would say that playing 9 games is going to be more difficult than playing 8. Well, that just depends what 8 they give you, right? And what it would look like between the two. But most likely, you feel like, yes, this will make the landing into the SEC a little softer.
So when Greg Sankey was asked about how are they going to do the scheduling, right? He said it's going to be based on fairness and competitive balance, and they're going to prioritize primary and secondary rivalries. And I guess they're looking at the last 10 years or so and how teams have performed. The interesting thing for Oklahoma, right, is clearly when you stack their last 10 years, if you're just looking at winning percentages, OU's going to be up there.
They're like 3rd or 4th, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So you're talking, they're going to be right there with Bama and Georgia, right? And that's the company they're going to be living in. Does the SEC look at that and say, okay, is it like the NFL? Hey, you were really good. You could get a tougher schedule as a result of that. Or will the SEC look at Oklahoma with that happening in the Big 12? Will they view it differently? If you're an OU fan, you're hoping they view it a little differently. Maybe. I don't know. But we know the one rival is going to be Texas. Another interesting question is like if they're prioritizing primary rivalries and secondary rivalries, who is OU's second rival? It's got to be A&M or Missouri, right?
Here's the thing, and this is what I've been upset about kind of the whole time. you cannot schedule games if you're going with 8 and you're going with one permanent opponent. You have to throw everything else out. And then you just have to do the rotation to where you play the rest of the conference home and away every 4 years. You just throw it out. You can't start hand picking things after that point, right? Because as soon as you start hand picking, well, then that's whenever you get this big discrepancy in what everyone's schedule looks like. Well, we're doing the 8 games and the permanent opponent, but we're going to honor the fact that this game has taken place. Well, that means that if you're honoring the fact that some of these tough games have taken place and maybe someone else doesn't have those same things, like you're possibly making this schedule way more difficult than you are this schedule. You either have to do it or you don't. And this is exactly what was frustrating me leading up to it, is that you're either going to manipulate schedules or you're not. And they, by choosing the 8 game, no division, they basically said, we want to manipulate the schedules. That's how I view it.
And we'll see how it goes, right? We don't have to wait that long.
That's my other part of the winning aspect of it, is we're getting the schedule for 24, June 14th. Like, we got our schedule yesterday for the upcoming Big 12 season, and we're already getting the schedule for the 24 season. This is amazing.
Yeah. Now, we're not going to get the dates, right? But we, on June 14th, we're going to know.
And it's like a selection show style reveal, right?
Yeah. And I texted Jacob Potter from Sooner Vision and said, hey, man, we got to do a show once this drops. Like, we got to do something because the fans are going to want to see this thing. We need to talk about it because it's a big deal. It's a big deal knowing who the opponents are going to be in the SEC in year one, right? And that'd be fun to talk about. So we got to do some type of schedule release recap on ESPN Plus, man. We got to do it.
Have to. You kidding me? Like, that's like the easiest content you're ever going to get. That's why I've been, one of the things that frustrates the hell out of me about the Big 12 and really college football in general, like, schedule release stuff, as weird as it is, happens to be like the NFL. They started releasing some of their scheduling stuff, and it's huge content. And the fact that some people just give it away and just release it into the ether without trying to build off of it is strange to me.
Yeah. The one other piece, now that we know, hey, it's going to be an 8-game conference schedule, right? That means OU's got to fill some voids in that 2024 schedule, right? Because right now, Temple and Tulane are currently on the schedule. You take into account the 8 conference games, you're only at 10. You got to fill 2 spots. And one of those, according to SEC rules, is supposed to be a Power 5 or a high independent type team.
Yeah.
And I saw Todd Lisenby put a list out, Barry Trammell put a list out, and it looks like there's about 7 or 8 options. And those options are TCU, Houston, which I think would most likely be a neutral site game at NRG. TCU, Houston, Northwestern, NC State, Duke, Boston College, Washington, and Rutgers.
And these are schools that have open.
These are schools that, when you look at the schedules, it seems like OU and them could make it work. That's how I understood the lists that Lisenby and Trammell put out.
I'd circle that TCU one for sure, because, again, it was a rumor that future non-conference inventory was part of the arrangement with Oklahoma and Texas being able to leave the conference early. And there's an opportunity for TCU and Oklahoma, and I know we're playing them this year. You would think more maybe K-State or Baylor or something like that, but there's inventory there for Fox and Oklahoma's exit if that were to be possibly a replacement. I don't know. Because the other part of it is like Oklahoma's in a position where they have to have this. Like, it's not easy to get Power Five schools to just say, "Oh yeah, we'll schedule one of the best programs in college football." Like, there's you, especially whenever they know your back is against the wall. Like, they've got a massive upper hand on you monetarily here, right? In
Yeah.
negotiations.
I do think, looking at the list, I think the one coach you could call and be like, "Hey, let's do this. Come to Norman," and you'd be like, "Yeah, that sounds awesome," is Pat Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
I could see Venables getting on the phone with Fitzgerald and be like, "Come on,
Couple of
man. Come on, man.
a couple of old '90s backers talking.
Yeah, we'll headbutt each other before the game. It'll be fun, man. Come on."
Well,
But
he is one of the coaches on here that's under a lot less stress than some of the other schools, right? He ain't
yeah,
going anywhere at Northwestern.
no, he's the best coach they've ever had. And I think they'd be pretty foolish to ever get rid of him. But yeah, Washington would be awesome. How likely is that? I
Tough.
don't know.
Like, you're going to have to, most likely, you're going on the road to a Power Five somewhere.
Yeah, that's why. And I hate neutral site games. And I know some OU fans have some bad memories when it comes to neutral site games against Houston here in the recent past. But if I had my pick, like if you got to go on the road, neutral site at NRG against a Houston team that is trying to navigate a new conference and figure some stuff out. We'll see how 2023 goes for him. But I don't know. That feels the best of those choices.
Yeah. I feel like any of those, I don't think I'd have a problem going on the road to any of those. Like, as a fan, as a football team, it's a little bit more difficult, perhaps. Like, you don't want to go on the road anywhere. You'd love to play as many home games as you possibly can, but they're all spots for the most part that I've never been to Northwestern, never been to NC State, Duke, Boston College, or Washington. I wouldn't mind going on the road to see some of those places.
Yeah. Boston College would be cool. I've never been to Boston.
I haven't either. Well, I guess I've kind of been there. Whenever you play the Patriots, you don't really.
You stayed in Rhode Island.
Stayed in Rhode Island, and the Foxborough's not in Boston. It's in a neighborhood somewhere.
Yeah. You're just like, oh, we're here.
Yeah. So, yeah, I've never really been to Boston either.
All right. So you said you had a loser aspect to the SEC thing.
The loser aspect of it, not going with the 9 conference games, is really for fans and monetarily for the teams. You know, someone put it out right away that, you know, going these 2 years without the 9-game conference schedule, which everyone had kind of been thinking about and planning for, that's 8 figures pretty much that every school is leaving on the table, not having that extra that extra game at home in one of those 2 years against a conference opponent. And that's a lot of money. And whenever you look over all of the teams for 2 years, like, you're replacing some really good games, some really good inventory, and there'll be a handful of good games that are scheduled, but most of it is going to be crap. They're mostly going to be crap filling games that people don't care to watch, and people, I mean, they're going to go because you're handed a slate of home games every year that you can go to, and people love to go to the home games. So they're going to go, but the amount of attention and atmosphere and everything that you're losing out on by hosting what, you know, majority are going to be crappy non-conference games as opposed to high level competitive in-conference SEC matchups, you're losing out on money, interest, attention, atmosphere, all of the above.
Yeah. And I'm so curious as to how this happened. Do you think Sankey and the leadership in the SEC just thought ESPN would say, yeah, we'll give you more money?
I don't know.
I-
Well, Sankey really,
Because
it
it
sounded like he
Sankey,
was asking for it. He
it
wanted it.
sounded like Sankey, he was pushing for 9. I kind of think he just assumed everyone would be cool with 9, and that ESPN would say, yeah, we'll give you a little bump if you guys do 9. Did it just not work out the way they thought it was going to work out? I don't know.
Well, it's part of the problem whenever you have what amounts to a roundtable discussion. Like, if you have a group of people that don't have a leader, you don't get shit done ever. People just sit there and bark across the table, and everyone advocates for themselves, which, it's understandable. That's what everyone has been there to do. It's like your AD, your university presidents are going to try and put themselves in the best situation they can. But I don't know how everyone walked away feeling like we've put ourselves in a better situation here. What you've done is continue to hand power to the strongest teams. You've taken money off of your own plate, off your own table, and upset your fans, giving everyone else in college football a ton of fodder to throw your way because it looks like you're avoiding better competition, tougher path in order to have a better chance of winning a title, which, I understand on one hand, but it's a better chance to win a title right now for 2 teams. For everyone else, all you're doing is taking money off your own plate.
Yeah.
Like, you're giving Alabama and Georgia a better chance. Okay, maybe LSU, maybe one other team. But Vanderbilt, you're not giving yourself a better chance at doing anything. Kentucky, you're not giving yourself a better chance. Nobody is. You're handing Alabama and Georgia a better chance. You're taking money off of your plate.
Something keeps coming up, and there's a pretty easy solution for me. One of the things I keep hearing, they don't want to go to 9 conference games because teams want to get bowl eligible, right? They want to get to that 6th win. First of all, let's just be real. Bowl games that aren't the college football playoff, they ain't what they used to be, okay? Right? They just don't have, whether you want to acknowledge it or not, I still love watching them. I hope they stay around. They don't have the same sizzle they once had. But let's just change the threshold to be bowl eligible. If that is what is holding us up, if that is what is preventing me from seeing OU Georgia or Texas A&M Bama or whoever, LSU, Arkansas, whatever, if that's what's holding it up, drop it to 5 games. It's that simple. It's that simple. We want to see the good games. So if bowl eligibility, if the 6-win threshold is what's holding you back, they don't mean that much anyways. Just drop the threshold so we get better regular season games when the games do mean a lot.
You're 100% correct. But let me say this. That's a fake talking point. Can you imagine? Think about this. Imagine you are Tennessee. And I can't remember how everyone voted, so whatever. Imagine you're Tennessee. And some teams are holding this up because they want, they feel like it's maybe the difference for them becoming bowl eligible or not. They're taking 8 figures off of your table, $10 million off your table because you want to go to the Duke Mayo Bowl or whatever it may be. You're costing yourself money. I don't even think those teams want it. It costs schools money to go to most bowl games. Whenever it comes down to travel, hotel, dude, it costs a shit ton of money to move 200 people on the road for a week. It's a losing endeavor. You're taking $10 million off of your own plate just so you can put out a recruiting graphic that says bowl eligible 3 years running. No one gives a shit about that. No, there's not a recruit that is going to come to your school because you've been bowl eligible. They're not stupid. They know what bowls are good and what bowls suck. That's why I think it's a totally fake talking point. Like I've heard people throw that out there. Well, they want to be bowl eligible. Bullshit. They're giving up $10 million so they can go spend money to go to a horrible bowl game. And everyone else in the conference is like sympathetic to that. Like everyone else that's bowl eligible every year just by being able to go 6-6 or whatever it is like, no, guys, come on. Think about this. We want Vanderbilt to be bowl eligible. Why would they care? Why would anyone care?
I don't know.
It's a total, it has to, am I crazy that it's a total fake talking point?
No, I think there's two main reasons. I think this is them saying, hey, ESPN, we want more money for those ninth games. Give us more money. We'll play 8. We told you we'll play 8. We want more money. Yeah, we're 2024. We're going to play 8. How's that make you feel?
Schedule we want the more crappiest money. Games that you possibly can.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's a very real part of this. And then
it has to be. That's the only thing that explains it.
It's really the only thing that makes sense. And along with this, and I don't know if this plays that significant of a role, but I do think the members of that conference maybe just want to see how the expanded playoff in 2024 functions, right? Gather some information from that one season, right? That first year where you're still at 8 conference games. Everything's the same for you, right? How's the selection process going to function? Just the mechanics of it all. Like what's it look like? Let's get a baseline of information of how this thing is going to work. And then we can change accordingly. I think that's a small part of it as well, but I do think the main part is the ESPN piece.
Yeah, and the whole playoff thing is it's a talking point that works, right? Because you're saying like we just don't know, so nobody can really give you a concrete answer. But it's not going to matter. You can't give me a scenario in which like it's going to be some huge difference in a 12-team conference playoff. Like, I guess you could make, like, if you play the 9-game conference, or if you play the 8, you're not going to be able to look at either situation and say, well, we wouldn't have been able to get these teams in and we would have been able to get these teams. You don't know who would have won the game. You don't even know who would have played each other. So how can you say like one way or the other? I don't know. It's interesting.